Here's the question, Saucy. Does Boulevard know how we actually start the shows?
Ooh, I don't know. I hope not.
I don't think you guys do either. I think at one point Blevins accidentally leans on the record button, and about 7 minutes in, you're like, "Oh, we started 7 minutes ago."
Yeah, that's true.
That's accurate.
That okay. So Boulevard does know how we start the shows.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
We don't.
that's pretty much accurate to how we start the show every week.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's I threw a dartboard. Yep, I threw a dartboard. I threw a dartboard at a wall and just saw what sticks. It's gonna
This
be.
week, I threw a dartboard at a wall.
You never take a handful of dartboards and just throw it at the wall and see what sticks. Oh God, it's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be one of those ones. I hope you're.
This
hope
is
you're
gonna
ready.
be a good show.
I'm so excited.
I hope you're ready.
I'm ready. Are you guys ready?
Well, if you're not ready, it doesn't matter at all. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Runeterrable Radio. This is the first one of the year for us, the first real one, the first pleb version of Runeterrable Radio. We'll get into that in a second.
I like that.
For 2021, I am Blevins. With me, as always, is Saucy. What's up, buddy?
Hey, yeah, it feels like we haven't done this for a while because we haven't done this for a while.
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
And Saucy, we're also joined by the caster extraordinaire, the man who I don't believe actually sleeps, only
Oh,
casts
God.
LOR, the one and only Boulevard. What's up, buddy?
I'm doing great, Blevins. Thanks for having me today. And Saucy. Should have
I
thanked Saucy
feel like-
first. Blevins said it, and I'm like, nah, I should thank Saucy and kind of ignore Blevins because I haven't interacted with him as much. Got to start a good repertoire.
I like
It's true.
that.
I'm the easiest person to get along with. Saucy, you have to butter him up, or else
You have to wine and dine.
you got to wine and dine Saucy a lot. You just need to dine me.
Yep.
All I need is a little bit of a one McDouble, and I'm set for life. But yeah,
I have a theory. I have a theory about Boulevard that I just created.
okay.
I think Boulevard casts so much that tournaments actually create themselves just for Boulevard to cast them. Because if
Ooh.
Boulevard goes too long without casting one, I think he might cease to exist.
So, funny story about that. The upcoming
I'm right.
tournament this weekend, the online league series, it's hitting its 19th iteration. That
Mhm.
tournament was created so that I would have something to cast.
See? I'm smart. I'm smart.
Very smart. But we're jumping the gun here because
Oh, sorry.
I mean everyone. No, I mean Sauce. I hate to tell you, but you jumped the gun one too many times. You're off the show. I'm sorry, bud.
Bye, guys. Take care. I'm out.
Yep. That's to be it. That's actually the end of the show. Sorry. Bye, everybody. No, I'm kidding. I love having that button so we can do that gag over and over and over again. But so many folks in the know of the competitive LOR community, of course, know who Boulevard is, because if you've played in a tournament, I guarantee he's cast you. If you've watched a tournament, I guarantee you've seen him. But not everyone in we're the podcast world, and sometimes the competitive world only starts to trickle in a little bit. So, Boulevard, let's get to know you a little bit before we dive into some of the stuff that's been going on in the LOR scene. And tell us a little bit about your gaming and competitive gaming background.
All right, so basically, when I was young as a child, I tried every card game, or at least the big three, Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, as everybody does. And I was like, man, these suck. I hate these. Fast forward 6 years, my parents forget that I hate this, and they get me Yu-Gi-Oh cards for Christmas. And I was like, all right, yeah, sure. Let me try playing this again. Found out a couple of friends that my brother went to high school with were going to local tournaments. They were like, hey, if you think you're on this level, come play with us. I got my ass handed to me because I'm playing just a pile that I found out of packs because I'm 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I started going to local tournaments with them, and I wanted to actually start to get better, and I never did. I sucked at Yu-Gi-Oh for the entire 8 or so years that I played it. Up until I was about 19. It was my sophomore year of college. I had never day two'd an event. I had been to 3 national championships, and I think my strongest finish was 2-2 before I dropped. I was abysmal at it. And then my friends got me into this like other card game. I always like try to like focus on one game at a time. I'm a person of very singular mind. Like I will just do one thing and I will do it to death. And I was like, well, I can only play one card game. You know, I just got back from O2ing at a Yu-Gi-Oh! Nationals, and my friends are trying to get me into this other card game called Force of Will. And I was like, this looks so bad. It was so anime. It was so straight out of Japan. It had like just come to America a couple months ago. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. But there were no vendors in my area. And I was like, okay, here's a chance to make some money. So I start backpack vending the game.
Okay.
Fast forward a couple of months, I like win an ARG, and I'm like, okay, this is a little interesting. I get my brother into the game, and we realize very quickly that either we are completely off base on how to play this game, and we are the dumbest people on the planet, or everybody else is playing this game incorrectly, and we are the two best players in the world. And it turned out to be the latter, actually. 5 years later, we both have won national champions, or we both won national championships. We've both won world championships, and we each have 7 major event wins under our belt. I've took a year off, and he still has not been able to close that gap. So we're still tied 7-7. Both have a world's win. Both have a nationals win. I don't know if it's ever going to get broken. It might just die like that.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
That's fantastic.
Now here's my question. I've always wondered this about Force of Will. For when you're like signing up for an event, most tournaments have like, an entry fee, right? Now, instead of paying the entry fee, can you exile a blue card from your hand and pay 1 life to join the event? Is it okay? Dumbest joke that 3 people.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Like, and as soon as he started that, I'm like, all right, this is gonna be.
I'm too predictable with my
amazing joke.
Amazing Force of Will joke.
Last year for Secret Santa, my friend actually got me a Force of Will for my Secret Santa gift so that I would just own one because, you know, you got to have it as that gag, right?
That is an expensive gag gift to get someone.
Yeah.
They're what, like $80 or something now? Maybe even more than that. I don't know. Okay. So, multi-time high-level player of Force of Will. That makes sense. You know, we've talked to a lot of folks that have had a competitive card gaming background. How does this lead into Runeterra? I mean, besides the obvious, like, oh, this is a game that is a card game that's coming out. What led you into not just Runeterra, but the level of to which you're into Runeterra?
So, you know, if you've been really good at a card game before, you know that if you show up to a GP and you don't do super well, maybe you drop out early or like you weren't that interested in playing, whoever's doing commentary will be like, hey, you know, you're a recognizable face in the community. Do you want to hop on the mic for a couple of games? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. At the 2017 World Championship, I got left on the mic for the entirety of day 2. The guy that was running it just disappeared, and I casted for like 9 hours straight.
That's such a classic.
And I was like,
card game story.
Classic.
And the guy that was on the mic with me was like very uncomfortable. He didn't do a lot of talking, so I was more or less solo casting for like 9 hours. And I was like, hey, that was fucking great.
Yeah.
All right, I liked that a lot. So I had played League of Legends since season 1. I've always been really into that game. I really like playing it with my friends. I don't play it as much by myself, so please don't ask me about my rank. I don't really like to play ranked. I just want to play 5s with my friends. But when I heard that League was making a card game, I was like, okay, I have 2 options here. I just got done basically running a card game. I was pretty undisputedly the best Force Will player in the world. So I have achieved all that you can achieve in a card game. I'm not super interested in doing that again. And I don't want to try my hand as a player, suck at it, and then default to a caster, you know, play into that, oh, casters are just washed up player stereotype. Instead, when I heard that Legends of Runeterra was dropping, I was like, I am going into this as a caster. I am never going to enter a tournament. I am never going to try and make a competitive career out of this. I am going all in as a caster from day 1. And I wanted to see how far that would get me. And apparently the answer was a lot farther than I thought it would in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to go. Remember, you can't be a washed up player if you were never a player.
Yeah, that's just galaxy brain right there. I mean, that's the way to do it. Like, I'm gonna go back to League of Legends. I have never lost a game of League of Legends.
That is true.
Ever.
I can confirm.
And it's entirely true. And all of my games have been with Blevins.
That's true.
So as Blevins is my teammate, all of the many games we've played, I've never lost.
We've played between 300 and 500 games together. And
Yeah,
I don't
somewhere
mean between
3
yes.
and 500, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
is how
between
many
3 and
games we've played
500
total.
games we've played together, and
Yep.
we've never lost.
Never lost a game. So if you
Never.
ever want to be on a winning team, Boulevard, Blevins and I, we have room for you.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we do.
Might have to hit you guys up on that one.
Yeah,
We're very good. I play a lot.
we can up it to between 4 and 500 games. But, okay, so last sort of interview style question before we get into the meat and potatoes. Actually, you know what? This is the meat and potatoes. We've got some garlic bread to chew on after this, but you know, obviously you've played Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and we're very big into Force of Will, which I actually know very little about the gameplay of it. But where does, you know, what have you liked or maybe even not liked about LOR as a game compared to something like Force of Will that you were at such a high level with?
So Force of Will was an extremely fast-paced game. It plays very similarly to Magic. If you know how to play Magic, you know how to play 95% of Force of Will.
Sure.
But there were more than a few formats where the motto was, if you are paying 3 mana for a card and it does not win you the game, that card is literally unplayable. It was just kind of the way that things worked out. Counter spells were very prevalent. So, and after, you know, I'd done all this in Force Will, I like moved to behind the scenes. I had worked on a couple of card designs and like balance changes for them. Then I moved into doing design work for Argent Saga. And Argent Saga was a game where they were like, hey, we don't want to have counter spells anywhere in the game. And I noticed that when Runeterra dropped, they didn't want to have creature counter spells, which was one of the big problems with I had that the way that Force Will played was there were a lot of formats that were dominated by just having your units, you know, canceled.
Yep.
And I like that they didn't have that. I like the spell mana system. I thought that was really intuitive and just, you know, the turn system really is what drew me. That like back and forth, because I don't like playing the early game. I don't want to, you know, I'm not interested in playing 1 drops and 2 drops. So the faster we can get to like turn 4 and turn 5, that's good for me. And if my turn 3 is on 5 mana, that's something that I'm really interested in. And I just thought that they were doing a lot different than other card games I had seen. And honestly, I was just tired of Hearthstone and I wanted something to do on my computer when, you know, I'm just chilling. I have like an hour to spare and I want to jam a couple of card games, you know, kind of scratch that itch.
Yeah, the turn system is something I've taken for granted in Runeterra now that we've had it for over a year now. Where it's like I'll go back, and I actually haven't in a while, but for a time I'd go back and play MTG Arena, and I'm just like I end my turn, and then it's my opponent's turn, and I'm like ready to play something. It's like, oh wait, I tapped out. I don't get mana on their turn. I'm just kind of sitting here. Okay, I'm gonna go to sleep now, and then I'm just like, I'm actually just gonna, I'm gonna exit out of this game entirely. Like being able to play on each other's turns, or rather having a shared turn with the attack token really being the only difference is something that is just from not even like a gameplay standpoint, but like a game experience standpoint has just been so great. Like
there's not you don't have that feeling of dead time, like because you
Yes.
always feel like you're a part of the game, even when you know you don't have the attack token. It's still kind of your turn, which is pretty sweet.
And at least
One thing
Hearthstone
that really
go ahead.
translated from Force of Will into Legends of Runeterra is the key distinction between Force and Magic is instead of draw untap, it's untap draw. So there are things that you can do in your untap step that is still on your turn. For example, if something's like, oh, like tap 3 mana, give me +5 attack until the end of the turn, you can do that and then untap all your mana and it's there for the remainder of the turn. So I was really used to like wanting to hold open and float mana into the following turn. And the spell mana system really helped me transition that of like, hey, this is something that I'm very used to doing. This is how I'm used to playing card games, and I will continue to be rewarded for this.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can tell. I mean, we talked about this a lot, and we talked about it with Umbridge as well. Is just like you can tell that the devs have played card games for the last 20 years, and they have integrated that knowledge from other games and just from experiencing other games into Runeterra, which is great. But awesome. So there you have it, folks. For those of you who didn't know, Boulevard is as well as we do. Now you do. Well, maybe not as well, but you know, you got a little taste. You got a little taste, and you can now go watch some of the cast that they're doing. But we've got a lot of stuff to talk about on the Runeterra side. We had the the 2021 league presentation come through, and we got a little bit of Runeterra news, Saucy.
Yeah, we got quite a bit. Did you guys watch it live when it was, either of you?
Yeah,
I did.
The animations were really good. The Yordle animation was really good. It spoke to me. It spoke to me specifically, and I like to say that they made that animation just for me, just so we could see a little more Teemo in my life. And yeah, a lot of good stuff, a lot of sweet things.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna take a look here. We got a 2021 roadmap here for Runeterra.
Yeah, which is really cool. We're not if you come from other card games, you're not usually used to like even this much transparency. Like you usually know there's gonna be a set somewhere mid-year, a set end year, whatever. But this is like here's January, February, March through July. Like here's the things that are coming each month, and it's really cool to see specifically. Like here's when a new event's coming. Here's when new expansions coming. Here's different labs. Like I thought it was really cool. And if you want to see the specific roadmap, if you haven't seen it yet, you can go. It's on their Twitter. They posted it on the 8th. So just on Play Runeterra's Twitter, it's on there and on their website.
Yeah. A quick overview. We got the co-op versus AI lab for January, which actually came out today as we're recording.
If you're here live.
If you're here live, you can go. Actually, if you're hearing this at all, you can go play it right now. February, we're going to be getting Aphelios, which we'll talk about in a minute here, as well as a single-player Legends lab. I wonder what that is. And then
then they also like have a sub note. What does it say? Champion expansion deck bundle, lunar celebrations, cosmetics, and seasonal tournament in February.
Yes, we do know when the next season tournament is, because it's literally live in the client what the dates are. So
I think a lot of people miss that one. I've had people being like, "Oh, do you know when the next tournament is?" I'm like, you can check. Actually, the tournament tab didn't go away at the end of the last seasonal.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I know because of work that it's there because I've checked it so many times. But yes, it is in the client, and theoretically, it will always be there. So if you're ever curious, you can always check the tournaments tab. It is updated. And then March, we're getting a new set, which is called Empires of the Ascended. An expansion event pass, which we didn't have last set, right? I don't think we didn't get an expansion, or we didn't get an event pass with the new expansion. We got the KDA one afterwards. Champion Mastery, which they talked about in the video, and then a social lab. Interesting. And then I won't go through everything because it's further out, and you can just look at it on the Runeterra website, or on the Runeterra Twitter. But we're getting Shurima. We're getting Shurima, which is like almost like Egyptian-esque, it seems, sort of region. Boulevard, do you know anything about the lore of Runeterra or Shurima?
I think most of the Shurima lore that I know was pre-retcon, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
I think it's been changed since then.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I looked into it, and there's a couple of cool champions, at least in Shurima. Rammus for me is one I'm one I'm
I love
hoping
Azir.
for.
I'm a huge Azir friend.
Nice.
I'm excited to see. I want that to be in the game.
I've had predictions that Azir is going to be like a 4/6 that maybe summons 2 units on attack, maybe, I don't know, let's say 3/2s or something along those lines. Like it's just going to be Hecarim power creeped for Shurima.
I like that. I want it to be exactly like pre-nerfed Hecarim.
Yeah.
That's it.
No,
That'd be great.
no.
Yeah.
What's really cool about, I mean, just Runeterra in general, and the point in time in Runeterra that we're in as a game is like, we're experiencing new, if you're coming from Magic, new colors being added to the game. Like, like Magic literally has never added another color in a real set ever, right? So like, this is a new experience. I mean, it took Hearthstone how long to add in Demon Hunter? Like,
and it was a disaster when they did it. Yeah,
so it's like
balancing nightmare,
and and well, like also, like we get to see like what is the like what would be considered like the color identity in Magic. Like what is the region identity of Shurima? Like it can be so many different things, which is just really cool to experience that in real time and see what they're planning to do with it.
Yeah, did either of you play the Pokemon trading card game?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Does the Pokemon type have like a color wheel within itself? Or are they just kind of all over the place and typing doesn't matter too much?
Not, I mean, like the elemental types, kind of, yes, but not as much, just because damage is kind of just damage. But they have weaknesses and strengths. Like they have immunities based on the like. If you have water, it does more damage to like a fire type.
Because I know
But they don't
Fairy
have, like,
got added into Pokemon not too long ago, and I was wondering if that was like a similar level of shakeup, like Legends of Runeterra getting a new region, where it's like all of a sudden this fairy color wheel gets added to Pokemon, and all the fairies have like this sort of central identity that they all kind of play around, or anything like that.
Yeah, not as far as like I have some friends that are pretty heavy into it, but I haven't heard much in the way of that.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is like electric will do like paralysis more, and like psychic when it
things they're known for, like
yeah,
more burn status effects.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
stuff like that.
but I'm also basing off of like like 1997 knowledge. So
Pokemon TCG it's lit. I like if I had unlimited time, I'd play it more. It's like the most degenerate card game. It's crazy.
I actually started playing the online version, but just the starter decks. Which is kind of fun. Like I've seen so many people like doing the openings, and like a bunch of like the casters from Overwatch League that I know have been playing Pokemon TCG online, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try it out, and it's been pretty fun.
It's fun. It's a cool game.
The starter deck version got boring, as you would imagine a starter deck version of any game would, especially since people are absolute trash. And like just understanding basic card game stuff, like I just dominate people, which is fun. But
what I'm excited about though is Champion Mastery.
Yes.
I'm excited for that.
I can't wait for that. It's just, I mean, we've talked about this before, Saucy. We want more things to be able to grind, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. That's why, like, just them adding prismatics has been such a big deal to me personally, you know, just because people like Blevins and I that have been playing since before the game came out, like, we have all the stuff, right? We have all the cards. There's no like thing to grind for, and like even prismatics, it was this week I was like, man, I haven't played gauntlets in forever because it's just not a mode I play, but God, I want to finish that quest because I want those prismatics. It's like crack for me. I need those shinies.
I need my foils.
So Champion Mastery is going to be another thing. I don't know exactly what all it gives you, but as long as I can be better than someone with and have a better Teemo, that's all I care about.
One thing that I'm really excited for is I just dropped like another stack of cash on Runeterra today because I'm like, my decks aren't shiny enough.
Yes.
I haven't gotten any prismatic champions yet because looking at this roadmap, I noticed in May, champion skins is listed there. And I am going to hate it if I get a prismatic champion and then a skin comes out and I'm like, oh man, I'm never going to use this prismatic again because instead now I have Little Devil Teemo.
Right.
But what if that skin is prismatic?
It's so far away that I want to spend the money just because, like, I can't sit with non-shiny cards for the next 4 months while I wait for champion skins to come. That's so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be embarrassed.
Only peasants will be playing with non-shiny cards. And speaking of peasants, we did just release our first bonus episode on the Patreon to everyone, so you can head over to patreon.com/Runeterrable Radio. And everyone has access to the first episode, but only the privileged few, the upper crust, the creme de la creme patrons have access to the newest episode. And we'll put that one out eventually for the plebs too. But if you want access to it now, head over to patreon.com/Runeterrable Radio and become a patron at any level, and
that was
you will
smooth.
get there. Yeah,
that was smooth.
We got there. The sellout is strong in me.
So something, this is going to be another, I'm going to be all over the place.
Yes.
Whatever.
Classic.
So Co-op Lab, I haven't played it yet. I've been watching Discord today as people have been just flying through talking about it way too much. Something interesting though is didn't they add it where you can, if you play, you can play queue randomly, right? You don't have to play with a friend, and you can add the person afterwards. There's an
Yes.
option to, do you want to add them?
Yep.
And the discussions come up. Do we think they're going to add that for just ranked play? Like you can add your
I
opponent.
hope not, because before that lab went live, they actually put that add a friend feature in a little bit early, and I like had to quickly play one of the other labs just to get like my last thing for the prismatic chest. And it's like this whole screen, and it's like, do you want to add this person? You can always unadd them later. And I was kind of curious. I'm like, if we does it, unless we both hit the add button, I'm assuming it doesn't add us. But like, I don't know. Personally, I've never like played a game against someone, and like I've never wished that we had that add your most recent opponent chat function from Hearthstone,
Right.
because I used that maybe 10 times. 0 out of 10 times was it a positive experience.
Oh yeah. It's literally only to flame your opponent, right?
Yeah, like let me stay up here in my ivory tower, you know, among
Yeah.
the streamers and the content creators, and you stay down there. Do you recognize my name online? You keep your mouth shut about it.
Yeah, you're not allowed to add me. Thank you, Can.
Yeah. So I did play today, and I saw the screen. And the person who I played with hit okay, so it just sends a request to you.
Okay.
And if that person is listening to the podcast, welcome. I'll hit let me know in Discord.
Blevin's username is Blevins. I'm a podcaster. You can find me at Runeterrable
Yeah.
Radio. Their username.
Yeah. My in-game name is patreon.com/Runeterrable Radio. And I will add you if you can.
Yeah, well, like when I actually did that. So I was playing TFT the other day, and I was against someone, and there was some name TTV or something, and I went and added them. And I was like, I wonder if that's like the first time that's ever happened. Like, I don't know.
Where someone sees the TTV and goes, "Oh, I'm gonna go to their channel." I've done that before. But yeah, no, I don't care if it's on there, and honestly, like, I think it's kind of cool. Like, if someone recognizes my name and wants to add me from the podcast or whatever, like, I have no problem with that. But you can already do that if you play against me and you go to the Discord. Just message me and I'll add you, or you can add me. Like, I'll just say yes. It is not ever for a positive experience. Like, in what percentage of time? What percentage of times is it positive? It's got to be like under a 0.1%, right?
It's very,
like,
very little. There have been, like, it happened last week. There was one opponent that I specifically wanted to add just because they had a really interesting deck, and I didn't want to like create it because I'm lazy. But very, very rarely. It is usually like in Hearthstone. I mean, doing that for so many years, I can probably count 4 times in 5 years that it was a good experience.
Yeah.
And probably over 100 where it was them wanting to shout racial slurs at me. So like,
I always liked when people would add me. I would snap accept always, and when they would complain, I would only respond to them in Hearthstone emote voice lines.
Nice.
See, I did the opposite, where I would snap decline it, and then I would sit there and watch them constantly resend the friend request while I get to sit here and decline it, and I know that they are foaming at the mouth, trying to get into my inbox, constantly resending that friend request. And I'm like, do you think that I'm gonna fall for this?
Yeah. It's the same. It's the same thing. People ask about having like voice chat in the game too, and it's like that was a huge innovation that Hearthstone added. That was great. Like, if you've ever played Magic Online, voice chat, or not voice chat, text chat is toxic.
Terrible.
It's awful.
I don't even like voice chat at like paper events.
No, seriously though, like, your opponent is always the worst every time.
There was I made a conscious decision after I won the world championship. I went to my first Grand Prix like in January, and a bunch of people recognized me. They wanted to congratulate me, and I ended up having a round where the game ended in a draw because my opponent would not shut the fuck up trying to have a conversation with me. And from that point on, I refused to speak during games. I went on a stone face. It actually got to a point where there was a reputation where if I was chatting with you, the game was over. And you didn't know it, but I knew it. And it didn't matter which way it was. Like, once I opened my mouth, that's because the game is locked and sealed. And until then, like, I'm just stone faced. I'm communicative, but like, I'm not making small talk with you.
No.
that's actually part of the reason I stopped doing like competitions and stuff, because I only do like I would do like an F&M or that type of thing where it's just like I don't care if I win, but like I won't do competitive REL events anymore, because like I do the same thing where it's like I put game face on and it's like I'm not pleasant to be, not like I'm unpleasant, but I'm not pleasant to be around. And like if
No, you're not pleasant to be around.
well, I'm less pleasant to be around. I'm more unpleasant than I normally am, which is very much so. So it's not good. Yeah, it's like stone face. I also like, and this has kind of fallen out of vogue in recent years in Magic, but like I was an angle shooter, I guess is what the kids would call it these days, of like,
okay,
I'm going to try like yeah, maybe I won't talk about some of the stories I've done. I also hate. That'll be an off-topic one, talking about how much I hate Magic judges, in general. But yeah, I don't even remember how we got off on this tangent, but it is definitely a good
adding
one.
Friends.
Oh yes, adding friends. I don't mind the adding friends thing. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I do think it is it's not a net positive, is what I will.
Probably not. I mean,
is what I will say.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this, but there is a game, League of Legends, that's known for having a very friendly and positive user base, right? And no one ever has any
only
negative...
if today's opposite day.
Okay, cool. Because I've never heard of anyone getting mad at people yelling things in that game. So yeah.
But
never voice chat, never text chat ever. So.
I mean, think about it. People post on Reddit like unironic diatribes about how the Braum emote should be removed because it's too toxic.
Yeah, they were like, oh yeah, the Braum emote has been like co-opted for toxicity, which is wild to me, because I'm like, it's the way.
Also, if that's the case, it's in your head that's happened. But I'm not going down that. I'm not going down that road.
I actually saw someone on Twitter who like he followed me. I always like check out the profile of people that follow me, see if I want to follow him back. But his last like 10 tweets were tweeting at the developers of Runeterra about how he would pay money to be able to disable his opponent's emotes. And I was like, in all these tweets, has nobody thought to like explain to him like you can actually just already do that?
Oh, Saucy, why do I have a feeling I know who they're talking about? You know,
I had a person in mind as well.
I would laugh so hard. You can tell us off stream who it was. I have a feeling I have an idea of who it at least would likely be, which is hilarious. Like the way it is now is fine. Emote communication is great, especially with the amount of emotes that we have. Like you can express yourself in so many ways. Of course, Boulevard, you have the next level tech of emote meta.
Immediately mute your opponent's emotes, and because the emotes in this game are phenomenal, you've spent money on them, and I haven't. And when I mute your emotes, you're down $20 at the start of the game, you idiot. How are you going to come back from that deficit?
That's where you're wrong, Boulevard.
Right
that's where you're wrong, Boulevard. You think I've only spent $20 on emotes? Oh, it's so much more than that. That's okay. You can't mute my completely foil deck, and you can't close your eyes because the sheen of my foils will burn through your eyelids.
There you go.
I know there have been a lot of people in a lot of like digital card games that are like, is there an option to just like turn off foils? Because like I don't care about having my cards foiled, and like I don't like looking at other people's foils. Like, can I just turn this off? And I feel like people want to be able to turn off literally everything in a card game.
Exactly.
Just like play on the default settings. Like, because like I'm not spending this money for me. If skins in League of Legends cost money and only I could see them, I would buy less than half of what I have.
Right.
Which is an absurd amount already.
Yeah, you want to show them off.
Especially like card backs and like. Yeah.
Like let me flex my personality a little bit. Hey, hi, my name is Boulevard. I like cherry blossoms and Lee Sin.
I had to, so there was someone, I don't remember if this was in Discord or on Twitch chat. I can't remember, but they were posing the legitimate question. They said they were afraid to foil out a champion because they thought it would give their opponent an advantage of knowing what champion is most important to them. And I was like, that's going a little far. I don't know. They're like, I don't want to foil out my Lux because then they're going to know I really like Lux. and then that might give them an advantage. I'm like, that's reaching. That's reaching. I don't know, my dude. And they're like, what if I like have a deck and I make the Freljord card back, then they might know it's like a Frostbite deck. I'm like, you are going a little off the edge. I remember like when I first started playing Magic, people would do that. Like, I'm not going to use a white deck box, because then they might know I'm playing. Like, just the psychology. But I'm like, in this game, when you start, it shows you the champions. Like, you're not hiding anything.
It's weird because I remember in Yu-Gi-Oh! Regionals in the early 2010s, you could always tell who was playing Gladiator Beasts because they all wore polos for some reason. Like, you go to any event and like they all did it subconsciously, and all of them did it, and we never understood this phenomena. But we went to so many Philly regionals, and it's like, you see that guy in the golf shirt over there? Yeah, he's probably playing Gladiator Beasts, right? Oh, sure enough.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Well, what's also funny is you could always tell who was new at the game and was awful by the fact that they had a Naruto playmat, because that's just universal for everything. If you have a Naruto playmat, you are trash at whatever game you're playing.
I found my like Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube channel from when I was 16, and I was comparing my views now to my views then, and got really dejected. But I did find like I made a video that was like a tier list of the kind of playmat that you use versus how much I respect you. And yeah, Naruto was at the bottom, and right next to it was Dragon Ball.
Okay.
I think, well,
what was the top? 99.
Oh yeah, what is
Spellground?
I don't know what that is. Is that an anime?
No, it's a Magic thing. It's the like cloth mats.
Oh, it's a
Like
brand. It's like a
Yeah.
brand. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know. I wasn't sure where you're going with that.
I use a Doge playmat.
It's I used a Marvel Dice Masters playmat, which showed you the different zones in the game, which was awesome. Also, I used a Kaijudo Regionals playmat in a Kaijudo.
Yeah, I used a lot of regionals ones. Like, I'd find my oldest regional one that I could find. Be like, yeah, see this?
Yeah.
2010 regionals in Phoenix. Like, whatever. Just like some random. Then they all get destroyed and coffee all over them.
No, I think lowest on my tier list is definitely My Little Pony playmat. 100%.
I didn't know those existed. I never saw one.
You are lucky, my friend. But yeah,
Weapons owned them all.
I bought all of them. No.
Yep. Speaking of buying all of them, we have to talk about Aphelios.
Yes. Perfect transition. We've got Sad Moon Boy, who is interesting because we're getting a new card, but even more interesting because we're getting a new way with which cards are being distributed. This is not, Aphelios is not part of the Empires of the Ascended expansion, or maybe he is, but he's not being released with them. I don't know how that actually works, but he
probably will be for like card
rotation
sorting.
finally gets announced.
Yeah.
I don't know how that, we'll find out how that exactly works, but we have Aphelios, if you haven't seen, is on the PlayRuneterra.com website, so you can check that out for yourself, but we'll talk about it a little bit here. Aphelios, 3-mana, 3/3 in Targon, to the surprise of no one who knows what Aphelios is. And then has Nightfall. Pick a moon weapon to create in hand. We'll go over those in a second. And when you've played 2 other cards in a round, create the moon phase weapon in hand if you don't have one already. So basically, he creates these weapons with Nightfall, and if you play 2 other cards. And when you've cast 4+ moon weapons, he levels up. Then he gets the normal +1/+1, becomes a 4/4, has quick attack. Nightfall still creates the moon weapon, and then round start. And when you've played 2 other cards in a round, you create the moon weapon, the phased moon weapon in hand if you don't already have one, and also your moon weapons cost 1 less. So, what are these moon weapons?
A big text boy.
He's a big text boy, which is, top-down design from League of Legends, because he's got like 58 abilities and weapons and stuff.
Someone showed me the UI from Aphelios in League of Legends, and I said I would never play that ever.
He's actually pretty cool. I played him a decent amount. I'm actual dog shit at the game, so
no, undefeated with me.
With you, yes, but I've lost many times outside of that. It's literally the Saucy Teemo carry. The Teemo Fizz carry from Saucy gets me there.
What was the Teemo Fizz top lane?
Have they confirmed, because there was like a discrepancy between the cards they showed in the video and what it says on the website. Have we heard anything about that we know of?
Do you know which discrepancy? Like, what card had the discrepancy?
I think
Grant
at least
versus Give,
yeah,
right?
It's Grant versus
I
Give.
think they confirmed that it's Give.
its give. Okay, and they're still all slow spells, I'm guessing.
I believe so.
Okay,
Yes.
which is
That-
way worse. But basically, I won't go through all of them, but there's a weapon for each of Aphelios's weapons, ranging from giving buffs to doing damage to units to stunning. And what's the other one? I might as well go through it. And summoning a 2-cost follower from deck, which is interesting. And like the way it works is like when you play one, it says it phases into one of another two. So like it like goes in an order, but you can jump ahead. It's confusing, but I imagine that the UI will make it less confusing in game.
Yeah, I saw really cool. Someone posted a really sweet infographic that showed all of them. It's like, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it like shows like how you can cycle through them. Boulevard, initial thoughts on Aphelios in general, or the release of him, or just him in general.
This card is going to have an absolutely insane win rate in gold and below, simply because your opponent is going to lose track of what you're doing so quickly and get lost in the sauce and just lose the game on that alone. It is the wet dream of every like original deck builder that's like, I want to win the game because my opponent has no idea what my cards do.
Yeah.
Instead, now it's just the one singular card, and they can read it. They can click on it and read it. They can't comprehend. They're not going to understand what's going on to them. In like Plat Masters, I expect us guys up here to actually just fuck it up and have like a 30% win rate because we don't know what we're doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
Think that we understand how the card works, and instead we're just
Not
like
at
grabbing the wrong gun, dropping it, it's misfiring on the hip. It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds about accurate.
Yeah, I'm wondering because like he is a Nightfall card technically, right? He's a Nightfall card.
I think that's like the most. I think that's actually the most important part about him is he's a Nightfall card, because there's not a ton of good Nightfall synergy. Like there's not enough of it. So I know like Nick makes plays. He was excited just because he's a Nightfall whore, so he's excited for this. But yeah, like if you love Nightfall, like it's another Nightfall enabler. I don't know if you want to play this alongside Nocturne, but you technically can.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I will say that the amount of words between Aphelios and Zoe makes me really scared for the Shurima power creep.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is true. Also, Aphelios plus Zoe. Aphelios is generating a ton of cards for Zoe.
Yeah, for level her up.
Huh. Interesting.
No, you're thinking too small. This plus Pursuit of Perfection.
I thought you were going to say Victor.
Yeah,
nah,
Victor.
Victor.
That's not a big cat.
He's not a big cat. He's making
in the same region as the big cat though.
That is true. But you can't play Aphelios and Zoe and Victor. That's the problem. I mean, you could, but you can't maximum.
2-2-2 split, baby.
2-2-2 split. That's 2-2 too many.
This is my singleton gauntlet deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you bring up Singleton Gauntlet. Am I the only one that really doesn't like that format? Like I thought I would like it.
The first time a few days ago, and I did not enjoy it.
I feel like
I think it's universally agreed that no one really likes it.
I feel like
Good to say that.
the only people I've ever seen like it, the only person I've ever seen like it is Shane from Twin Sons podcast, which by the way I did guest on an episode of theirs recently, so check them out.
Easily their worst episode.
Easily, definitely. But yeah, I just like it. I feel like I'm like, oh sweet, 3 regions. I can do all these cool things. Oh wait, I just can only run 1 copy of each card. So like the cool like synergies you could unlock from having 3 regions are just like I get to see that every 15 games because
the only thing I've done with it is make really bad like boat tribal, because we could fit another boat in there, and like Yordle tribal and stuff, but it's never like actually fun to play. The deck building is fun, but then the games feel like shit. It's like the problem.
That's how I felt about so many Magic the Gathering drafts. Like I just want to do the draft, and I want to like I kind of want to see how it performs just to gain that information and help me draft better, but like I don't want to play it. Like if I could see it like simmed, like if I could see 2 computers play at a high level against each other like the deck I drafted, I think I'd be happy with that.
We used to do that for booster box drafts. Me and my friends would get booster box, we'd draft it, and then just draft again. We'd like,
Yeah.
well, we don't want to play with these shitty decks, but just like, what creative things can you do? And then we just keep redrafting.
Yeah, I mean, I always just like to do pack wars with those because it's like, or like infinite mana pack wars would be fun.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's see. Aphelios, yeah, I'm pretty excited about him. This will. I'm wondering if, because this will put Targon with +1 champion, I think, over all the other regions. So I'm wondering. I know they've mentioned that the numbers between all of them, all the regions, aren't always going to be the same. Obviously, they've been off, throughout the course of Monument of what is
Call the Mountain.
Whatever.
Call the Mountain, yeah. Monuments of Power, Call the Mountain, yeah.
Cosmic Creation.
Cosmic Creation is the third one, yeah. So I'm wondering, like, if this is it just always going to be in a state of flux, and maybe like a region doesn't, like, their identity isn't champion based? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it really matters that much, right? Like,
yeah, people bitching about a region having one extra champion can go kick sand. Like, that's just like the most meaningless thing to be mad about.
Right.
I mean, I get it. The internet is full of people being mad about literally everything, no matter what. They could give everyone in the game 10 free champion wildcards, and someone's gonna bitch, well, I'm mad they didn't give them to me sooner. So no matter what, like, people are gonna be mad.
I am a little concerned just because, so Force of Will, you have to understand, this game is undying. It's died at least 10 times. The first time that it died was about 6 months after it released, because they released this dual deck, and it was red and white cards from the next set. So for 3 months, red and white were just 3 months ahead of every other color, and it like completely ruined the game. So anytime that we like get one region that's like just a little bit ahead of everything else, I always like get back, in the back of my mind, I get flashbacks to those moments.
Yeah, I definitely can understand that, especially like we've definitely been spoiled in Runeterra with how relatively balanced the regions have been in terms of like representation, and like having decks not be super overpowered from a win rate and play rate perspective, which has been great, especially in tournaments when there's like artificial, ways that's getting boosted with region and card lock and whatnot. And it would be a shame if we saw nothing but like Targon for the longest time. But even if we do, like, does Aphelios Targon look like, Lux Asol control? Does Aphelios Nightfall look like Zoe Lee? Like, those, even though it's technically the same region, like, they feel so different that, like, even if Targon is in a lot, it doesn't necessarily feel like too super bad.
So I had a like tinfoil hat thought about Aphelios and about the issue that you were saying with the Force of Will, where there was, like the extra things. I was thinking about, there was a time in Magic the Gathering where they had a card called Nexus of Fate that was only available as a buy a box promo.
Yeah.
But so Aphelios seems fairly underwhelming. Like, he doesn't seem super strong and super powerful. And I think that this being the first mid-set champion they're doing, they were afraid of it being like overwhelmingly powerful. So
especially because it's Aphelios.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like they might have toned it down to start. I'm excited for Aphelios after it gets buffed in 3 or 4 months, because no one played it all Elise Sin.
I mean, what if he gets the reverse Draven treatment and he becomes a 4/3 for 3? I already know that the inverse of that is it's such a devastating change.
Oh, could you imagine pre-nerfed Draven right now?
I just remember the very first expedition. I think you were in the call with me when I did that expedition.
You were so sad.
And I felt that 1 point of power every single turn of every game that I played.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah. So Aphelios seems cool. The fact that, again, like, we're still in a spot where, like, the devs are testing things out and, like, hey, let's see how the community reacts to a random champion being thrown in between sets or whatever. I like the little content drops. I like the KDA drop in terms of, like, spicing up the meta now, and obviously we'll talk about Go Hard in a second. The power level of those cards like are besides the point. The fact that 5 cards were released and we got pretty significant shakeups in the meta, or at least like new inclusions in decks was, I thought it was pretty cool, pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of Go Hard, finally got the nerf. Finally got a nerf. I think
today. Right?
Yeah, it did happen today. It came out with the new lab. Pack Your Bags now costs 5 mana, up from 1. So I believe everything else is still the same about the card, but now Pack Your Bags costs 5. Boulevard, initial thoughts from a meta standpoint, from the card in general standpoint on this Go Hard change.
So I like the idea of it going to 4 just so you can't grab it with Zap anymore. Going to 5 means that they thought that Ladros pack was a bit of a problem, which I can see. A 2-card combo that's going to end the game on you in. It's possible that you are playing regions. Like if you're playing Piltover's on Noxus, there's no healing available to you anywhere. You literally cannot get around Ladros Pack Your Bags.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always fine with nerfing any combo that Ladros is a part of and he's a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do think... I've talked about this before, and like the Go Hard just did too many things well on too many axes, right? Like it's a 1-mana card. It gains life. It doesn't take that many cards to transform it. The transform card is cheap. It can't be countered by most things. Like you can't glimpse the target and soft counter the spell because it will still get shuffled in. Like all of those axes all go in favor of Go Hard, and they took one of them, the cost of Pack Your Bags, and they increased it by a lot. But they did increase it. I do agree that the interaction with Ledros is certainly the biggest one.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought too.
Yeah, it's like you can't go Ledros pack anymore, which is definitely huge. I don't know. Like I feel like it will have a big impact on the meta, but not because the card is so much worse, but because of the phenomena we see all the time with, card got nerfed, card bad, me not play card anymore, and the meta will evolve outside of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'll be the same thing because I mean the card it's still, that effect is still good at 5 mana. It's just not as degenerate. Like, I mean, how many times have they Ledros Pack Your Bags and you deny it or whatever, and then they just play the other one they have. It's just like, fuck. Like, I don't know.
I definitely agree.
Yeah, and it stops a lot of the BM too, where they just like they have it, but on their last turn they're just playing a whole bunch of shit for no reason for like 25 minutes, where they draw a million cards and do all this stuff for no reason, and then
they have to get their quests done. They have to play 5 units that cost 2 or less.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on a not actually trolling point, like if you, and like I've in like lower on the ladder, like I have played like I don't have it, and like you get to develop on your attack turn before you play the pack, right? Like you try to bait out more stuff. You've got, theoretically 12 mana worth of stuff that you can play before you have to pack, and then you pack them and they just lose, right? Or if they overextend, they lose. Now, that's getting cut down by 4 additional mana that you can't spend, right?
Yeah.
So it's certainly going. It's obviously worse, right? Like except if you're talking about Nobify, which now can't counter.
Yeah, but
Pack Your Bags.
That's a stupid argument, because now you get to Nobify the glimpses that you want to be able to counter. So
the glimpses you should be countering with in that matchup. Again, I do think that this is going to have it's going to have a disproportionately large impact on the meta because of the phenomena, not necessarily because the card is so much worse.
I think everyone that just keeps playing the deck and just learns to play the new version with 5 mana will be rewarded when the people realize the deck is still good.
I think everybody when a nerf happens, you were just looking for any excuse to stop playing this deck. You were like, please, Lord, release me from this prison and let me play literally anything other than go hard. So I do think for like a week, maybe even as long as 2 weeks, it'll see a hard fall off until you check like a different ladder and you notice that the top 5 players are all still playing go hard, and you're like, yeah, nuts, I still have to play this, huh?
Ah, nuts. We still got to
Nuts.
keep playing it. Yeah, I feel like this was one of the like. And this is probably going to come off harsher than I mean it to, but this was like the least elegant way to nerf go hard. It's just like, oh, let's just slap a bunch of extra mana on, pack your bags, and be done with it. I feel
think
like
it was the most fuck up proof.
Yes.
Like, you don't want to have to change this card, realize it wasn't enough, and then like change it again, because I don't think we're actually scheduled for another balance patch before the seasonal tournament at the moment.
No.
Oh,
It's
really? Is it really that long?
Yeah.
So from
February
my
something.
from how people have been interpreting Umbridge's tweets, it doesn't sound like we're getting 2.2 until after the seasonal tournament.
Oh.
So we'll probably get a patch when Aphelios drops on the 3rd, but I don't think it's going to be a balance patch.
Gotcha. Yeah, because 2 weeks, yeah, and then 3, 4, yeah, would be like a couple weeks before the season. They like physically they have enough time to, and they might, but it would be, yeah, they certainly could not. I don't actually know what they're. I mean, they've kind of stepped away from the like strict every X number of weeks we're doing this much balance and doing these balance changes. So they can really do whatever they want, right?
I'm pretty sure we get one before.
I was thinking that there's enough time for them to be one, but I don't actually know.
Should be getting one
Yeah,
before.
Because Aphelios releases on the 3rd, and the seasonal I think is on the 19th. So 2.5 weeks is enough time for like
the qualifiers for the season.
But I know they definitely don't want to do it any closer than that. They've said explicitly like we don't want to do it too close to the seasonal and like shake up the meta the week beforehand.
That's true. I guess if Aphelios came out on the 3rd, they could do balance with that too. I don't know. I guess we'll see. And again, like even if they don't, right? Like this is, I try to look at this like macro level, right? Like yes, it will suck for the next few weeks, right? But when you look at like, this is how I think of it, and I think it will help put things into perspective for people. Like think about if this was League of Legends in 2009, right? And like they're not. I'm making this up. This isn't real stuff. Obviously, they're not nerfing Rammus here. He's super busted. They're not nerfing him for 3 weeks. How are you thinking about the like those 3 weeks in 2009 now in 2021? You don't care at all. You don't think about it. Only boomers remember. Only 90s kids remember that stuff, right?
Like at like the post-LAN bar to like find out who the other boomers were. Like, hey, who remembers 2021? Aphelios,
right?
And they didn't do anything about it. You remember those 2 weeks?
That's why I go. That I see.
A shot.
I say who remembers launch not Lee Sin Zhao in League of Legends. That's where I came around. Like anyone remember that? That was busted. That was great. Yeah. So I hope. Well, I don't know. Do we really need? I guess that's a good topic to talk about. Is there anything
I have 4 things in mind where I'm like I want a minor tweak to this?
Okay, let's hear them.
Number 1 is the Great Beyond.
Okay.
Ooh.
I think that card's just a little bit much. Invoke is everywhere too. I've actually had a problem with Atrocity for forever. That card has been just slightly too strong for pretty much forever. I know that Sparklefly is kind of a low-hanging fruit in that regard, as something that like people want as a balance page, especially with Go Hard getting nerfed. I think we're going to see a lot more aggro coming out, and then we're really going to like Sparklefly might even make its way into like Zoe Diana Invoke decks, and we'll start to see some other wild stuff come out with that. There's probably one other. I didn't like have these written down or anything, but I know those were like some of the big ones.
What do you think about Grand Plaza?
I didn't like that card when it came out. When I saw it, I was like, oh no, this scares me. As someone who has worked on card games before, this scares me.
Sure.
It hasn't really been as bad as I thought it could be, but that could have just been because of the meta that we were in. And if things shift, then like, yeah, there is a lot of potential, especially because of the way that the Riot format works. Like you can very easily bring 3 Grand Plaza decks in a lineup, and that scares me.
Yeah.
Yeah. There like Grand Plaza itself, like even like it's strong, right? No one's gonna say that card's not. Like the scout stick, it actually doesn't even annoy me as much. It really annoys me in the SI deck just because there's 0 tempo loss the turn you play it because you can summon 3,000 dudes to attack.
Yep.
That's the deck that it really pisses me off because there's no downside to play it. You play it and then you summon 8,000 ephemeral attackers that turn and still win. So it's just like there's no downside. Like there's no tempo lost.
Yeah, and like you could have triple Plaza out and still get 6 attackers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really love that card. Now its power level, I personally think it's whatever, it's fine. And they can change it or they cannot. I don't really care. I love that card simply because it, more so than a lot of other cards, at least, I won't say more than any other card, but a lot of other cards, has pulled cards out of the woodwork to be playable, right?
That's fair.
Like, I have been crushing with Red Shadowblade. It is a real deck, probably a tier 2, but like a real deck that you can play on ladder. I'm climbing through Diamond with it right now. And like even the like Lucian Hecarim deck, like that, like as much as you hate it, Saucy, and I feel that, like there's still like that deck was not that good without that card. It's very, very average. And I would still say that deck is not like S tier right now. It's probably like tier 1.5 or tier 2. But like Grand Plaza like really takes some of these these cards that are missing that little bit of interaction that like you would want to see play but aren't playable, but with the Grand Plaza, like all of a sudden they are. Red Shadowblade is the perfect example for that.
I think the only change I want to see to that card, because I actually don't hate the card. I wish it was only units that got played and not summoned. That's kind of the only thing.
I think that's how most people feel, yeah.
Because even in the Scouts deck, the cards they're playing don't bother me as much as Valor when they just play Valor after Plaza the turn they play the Plaza. And it's like, you have to have at least some tempo loss. Come on, damn it.
I know that I trust the devs on a lot of things, and they have given me reason to do that, which means that there are also things that they have given me reason not to trust them on. And one of those things is Demacia cards that say +1/+1.
Yeah.
Yeah. +1/+1 is so it's just so much better in Runeterra than anything, right? Than any other game.
Minion combat matters.
Minion combat matters so much. It also like it doubles as healing because which is just insane. I do like, but there's so many like different ways that you had to think about it, right? It's like, well, if you're going from purely a balance standpoint, yes, I think only doing things that were played, not summoned, would make sense, or could make sense. That would certainly tone down the power. I also think doing something like only giving it +1/+0, or even +0/+1, along with Challenger, would also make sense from a balance standpoint. But like, I feel like if we're going going back to like region identity, like +1/+1, I feel like that is a Demacia. That's where they are in the color pie. It's +1/+1. Freljord is like, stealing attack and giving health buffs, or like giving more health than attack buffs. Noxus is more of the just attack. I like that distinction, and like, even if it's sacrificing from the power level, or sacrificing by giving more power, if that makes sense, to Grand Plaza, like it stays within the identity. And again, I think in the grand scheme of things, that is a positive for the game, because it makes you feel like, oh, well, I'm playing Demacia because it has a very distinct feel, not because the cards just happen to be better. And if the Noxus cards happen to be better, if the Noxus cards have more stats, I'm going to play those. If the Demacia cards have more stats, I'm going to play those. And making them feel more different than just different stats, I think it's a positive overall. So
yeah.
Fun stuff for sure. I feel like we're missing something important.
Probably. That's all we do. We miss things.
Possible.
That's our MO.
We're like a 2-minute soapbox prepared if you've run out of things to talk about that I wanted to touch on.
A 2-minute what?
like a 2-minute soapbox that I could hop on if you guys are out
Yes,
of things to talk about.
hop
Bring
on.
the
So
soap.
this came up on a cast last night, and I know that. I mean, I've obviously put a lot of time into like the Legends of Runeterra grassroots esports scene. It's like what I'm kind of banking on at the moment. So, like a lot of players, and Lobster brought this up, I was a little disappointed at the roadmap, not mentioning really anything about esports, and it got me thinking about when was the last time you saw a card game release and it didn't have a world championship in its first year? Because I looked up the big three. Magic had its world championship a year after it's released. Pokemon had one. Pokemon had one a year, I think the year it released in America or shortly after, but Japanese companies don't like to play card games competitively. And then Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually had its first world championship the year before it released in America. So if everybody's kind of wondering, hey, when do I start panicking? When do I know, like, hey, they haven't announced esports yet? When do I want to be worried about it? I would say if we don't have a world championship this year, be worried. Because I can forgive not having one in 2020 because it was COVID. That screwed up a lot of things for a lot of people. But now that they've had, the 8 months since the official release in April until now, if we don't have a world championship of 2021 for Legends of Runeterra, that's when you start to get worried about a lack of esports scene.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Part of me was because I saw that on there, and part of me was hoping that maybe because the roadmap only went to July,
That's what I
we're
was
gonna get
hoping for as well.
something. But yeah, I really would love to see that. Even like, I mean, I'm not a competitive player, but I still like those are the most exciting times. Those are the times that people, rally together. We get all the fun parties. We get people playing the game. And like one of the big reasons when people talk about how like Legend of Runeterra doesn't have huge Twitch viewership, it's because all the big competitive players and other card games don't have a massive reason to come over here. So if we have
Mhm.
the world champion or something championship, a lot of competitive players, that's enough to push them over and maybe play the game and enjoy it. So yeah,
I
it worries me. I'd like to see something.
um I will say, and this is without, I don't actually have any information on this,
Ever hit the record button?
I will fully transparent. Obviously, many of you know I work for Wisdom, who is partnering with Riot on a lot of different things for LOR. But I don't know anything about this, so I guess I can speak to this. What I will say, just from my own opinion, COVID certainly, I think, has stifled a lot of things in the esports community, not just LOR, not just card games. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I mean, just from how Riot has done things in general, right? Like, do you want to start and have the first world championship be like not scuffed, but like not the full experience, like it would be? I mean, I think it's a valid criticism to say, yes, we want something, right? I think that's reasonable. But my guess is that that's probably where a lot of that is coming in, is like, we can't go
and
full
especially
out.
like
So
thinking of it as a like from a business standpoint as Riot, like the first world championship of the game is something that's going to be remembered. And if it is something that is, like you said, potentially scuffed, like do you hold out a little longer and wait till you could do it right? Or it's tough.
It's a tough line to walk because I know Blevins, you had mentioned like who remembers, the 3 weeks in between a bad balance patch.
right.
I think people would remember the 2.5 years between the launch of Legends of Runeterra and the first World Championship if we don't get it until 2022.
Yeah. When was the first Hearthstone World Championship? Did you look?
So Hearthstone launched in March of 2014, and their World Championship was in November of 2014.
Okay, interesting. I'm trying to remember when because I was around back. Was that the first World Championship for competitive, or was that the like?
I know that. I mean, Firebat's a world champion, and that's the one
okay.
that
Yes,
won,
I do remember Fire. Yes, that you're 100% right. Of course, that. Well, I don't know. Regardless, it's definitely it's definitely different. I will say that I did actually. I ran a poll on Twitter, and granted, I think it had like 70 something votes, so it's not like a huge sample size. But I mean,
I'm willing to bank everything on those 70 votes.
Yeah,
tell me what you found.
So I posed the question: if you are a competitive esports player, what would incentivize you to change games, assuming that you'd be at a similar level in the new game? The options were prize pools. That was one option. Second option was developer ran esports. Third option was I will never change. And fourth option was other and put in the replies. I didn't really get too many others, but it was like almost 50%. It was like 40-something% that said prize pool, another 40-something% that said developer ran esports, and like 1% that said I would never change, and then another 1%. So, I mean, again, small sample size for sure. Not trying to, claim everything for that, but like I do agree that the developer ran esports is definitely something, and just from what they've publicly said, right? Like they have. Actually, I'm not going to speculate because I don't remember what has been publicly said and what hasn't. But I will say
too much inside information to talk to us, Saucy.
Wow, Blevins.
That's true. I do. Yes. See, my cards are super foil. You only have regular foils. I have super foil.
No.
I wish. I would definitely pay for that. Yeah. I mean, I do think that the seasonal tournaments have certainly been a really great thing, but that is not, like, in my mind, esports, right? Like, that is a community, that is a competitive community event. It's not LOR esports. So yeah, no, I definitely feel, I don't know if I would go as far as saying I'd be worried, but I would certainly I do think that the, like, making the point of like, hey, let's have a world championship type of event, like that's certainly something that I'm sure that they want to hear, and we as a community need to push for sure. So. Saucy, what's your 2-minute soapbox? Do you have one?
My 2-minute soapbox is stop playing Hecarim Lucian Plaza.
Stop playing Hecarim, start playing Ren Shadowblade, you cowards.
I've never had a deck that I could say I've hated in this game. This is the first one. I won't play against it. I just concede. It's not worth my mental annoyance on stream. Like, it puts me in a worse mood when I'm streaming just because I fucking hate that deck. It's so annoying. Not even because it's super powerful.
Yeah.
Just because I hate the interaction. So I was like, fuck it. Next game, not worth my time.
I think I've only had one deck that I've really hated, and that was Pinky and the Brain original version, Vimer, back before Flash was banned. I just I tried everything, and like you can play around it and it just doesn't matter. I hated that deck.
Yep.
I don't.
Ooh, other soapbox. If you're trying to climb out, I forgot the stats. It was like, just what's after gold? Is after gold platinum? If you want to get to platinum easily, learn Lee Sin really well, because people I think it was like whatever iron to gold, like the win rate of that deck is crazy high because people don't know how to play against combo decks if they're new to the game. So learn that and you'll climb to plat. Like after platinum, it's more like 50-ish%, but I think it's like 60-some% below plat. Wow. Just because combo decks, like, they don't know how to play around it and like know how to use hushes and stuff, because you just lose on one turn.
I will say that people also don't know how to play around Ren Shadowblade, and
they have to read it. I love that. Like, you always see like there's a pause. Like, the hell was that card? What's it do?
So good.
That deck is good.
Yeah,
it's fun.
And also like with Grand Plaza and rally effects, the what are they called? They're not Shadow Assassins. The what the hell are the card? What are the tokens called?
Shadow Fiend.
Shadow Fiends, yeah.
Yeah.
The Shadow Fiends actually work out really nice, and people do not play around those, and they block very poorly. It's so good.
God, no.
Ren Shadowblade is my MVP for 2021
Plus,
so far.
those with Lucian, real good.
Yeah, also insane with Lucian, but yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I think. Let me see. Oh yeah, we're right about at time here. Boulevard, thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I had an absolute blast coming out here with you. I'm sad because I see that this is Runeterrable 51, which means I was just one shy of your 1-year celebration.
Yeah. That's true. That is true. But No,
We
well,
can
now,
pretend. We'll just
now
change
they,
the number. We don't care.
yeah, whatever.
We started at episode 50, so like this is really.
Yeah, this was actually only the first episode after that. Boulevard, where can people find you on the internet when you're not here on this silly little podcast?
You can find me on Twitter at @FromTheBLVD because From the Boulevard wouldn't fit, and @Boulevard is just someone holding the account name, and their Twitter bio is "No, I will not sell you" the username. So I never
Classic.
even bothered trying. And you can find me on YouTube at TCG Boulevard, where I do tournament specifically focused content, trying to help you figure out how to navigate a tournament landscape if you're like a beginner, maybe you've never played before, and just analyzing what I saw over the course of a tournament weekend, stuff like that. It's all very, very gritty and tournament focused.
You love to see it. Are there any? And I maybe I'm giving you the alley-oop here, Boulevard. Are there any specific shout-outs that you want to give?
I would like to give a very special shout out to Boulevard and not a goddamn other person on the planet. Boulevard and Boulevard alone, he's a fucking beast. I love that guy. Actually, I wanted to show you guys something.
Yeah,
Going
let's
off
see
on
it.
a little tangent here. Hopefully my webcam's going to adjust enough to get this. So this card, this ugly motherfucker right here, that's supposed to be me. This
Nice.
is actually one of the prizes for winning the Force of Will World Championship was I got my face on a card. And this is the Force of Will equivalent of Lightning Bolt.
Oh my God! Do I
Nice.
get to? Can I? Is that like a custom card, or is that like?
No, it's like legal in the game. It was a promo version of a card that I got to play at the World Championship.
You're
so
gonna need to
if
send
you're
me a
wondering,
link so that I can get.
Boulevard
I can
sucks.
buy
How did they
those.
win Worlds? It's because I top decked Lightning Bolt.
I love it.
Bolt's a good card.
Is it worth money?
It is not.
Okay,
They
I'm
also
going.
sent me like 500 of them.
I was gonna say I'm gonna buy out every single one. I want to own more than you. That is my new goal. You got to send me the link to that for sure. Saucy,
That's cool.
where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can just find me. My website is saucy.live. That's where all my stuff's at.
Ooh, is that new?
Instagram. I did it a couple weeks ago. I don't remember, maybe a month ago. But yeah, it redirects to just saucymailman.com. But saucy.live was a little more slick. So that's my website. You can find the Runeterrable website at DeckPics.Live. That's
Yes.
our website too.
Send us your deck
Totally
picks. We
real.
definitely want to see it. We definitely want to
Yep.
see your deck picks. We'll even rate your deck picks.
We will. We'll rate them harshly. And if it has Timo in it, you win.
You win. Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at @the_Blevins. You can find the show, like Saucy said, DeckPics.Live. You can also become a member of the Cool Kids Club, which is, the new name for our patrons, I guess. Patreon.com/Runeterrable Radio. I did put out another newsletter as well, as the off-topic episodes that we've been doing specifically for Patreon. If you want to get a taste for that and you're not sure if you want to become a subscriber or not, the first one is up there for everyone to listen to. But that is going to be it. Again, huge shout-outs to Boulevard and no one else. Thanks again for being on, buddy. But for Saucy, for Boulevard, I'm Blevins, and we'll be back next week to talk about some more Legends of Runeterra.